but what is the new thing that we've added to the Nets? What is the X factor that we've put into this team? Um, that's going to lead us to the end. What would you say that would be about us? Besides, you can't use we have Kevin Durant, like that's the obvious part, but kind of like how the Cavs had uncanny clutch shooting from Kyrie. I feel like that was the X factor for them winning that
I,
championship.
I, I thought this was going to be your offseason acquisition. My X factor is Millsap because we really don't. He's like the one guy that we can kind of play in that 4-man role that brings physicality and rebounding, but offensively isn't going to clog us up. I I was stunned that that wasn't your offseason acquisition. Now he at times looked totally washed up in preseason, but other times he looked like maybe he's just picking his spots and kind of finding his grow like his role here. To me, I went back and forth between him and Claxton, but I just don't see Claxton finding minutes in the playoffs. I think if you look at the Nets offseason plan, what was it? They wanted battle tested veteran guys. Millsap, Mills, even the idea of bringing back Griffin and Aldridge. They're going at this with veterans. They don't want anybody that they can't count on in the playoffs. That's why Shamit's not here anymore. They were, the Tyler Johnsons and the Mike Jameses of the world. Those guys aren't back because it's not because they can't contribute in the regular season. This is an all eye on. We want to throw out an 8-9 man rotation in the playoffs and probably only 8 that we know exactly what we're getting out of these guys. And I think we know what we're going to get out of Mills. We know what we're going to get out of Aldridge. I think we know what we're going to get out of Griffin. Millsap, I really don't quite have like my finger on how he's going to fit in here. Can he defend fours? Or does he have to play with Claxton where Claxton guards the fours and he guards the five? How did they work him in? To me, it's one of those things that can be like, that was a great signing and Sean Marks has done it again. Or we're like, man, that guy's just fucking washed up. So he's my X factor.
I like that one because there's a lot about him that scares me. I don't like what I've seen in the preseason, and it's only preseason, and they didn't really have much in terms of chemistry. But the the underappreciated thing that um, Uncle Jeff brought to the team last year was he actually was one of the few players that could run the break, that
Correct.
could finish and dunk on someone. We don't have much of that on the Nets right now. We got bigger, but we got slower too.
And let's be
And
honest, our second best dunk threat was DeAndre. Whether you like him or not, it was DeAndre.
our second best dunker might be Nick. No, no, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Nick is
Last year it was
shaky.
DeAndre.
Nick is shaky. No, you're right. You're right. DeAndre was our second best dunker, and so running out and finishing plays is something that I think we need to do as a basketball team. Sam, X factor for you.
Um, so I think especially with Kyrie out, I think it's really important. This kind of builds off what Bam said a little bit. I think it's really helpful to have three or four bigs in Aldridge, Griffin, and Claxton, not Claxton, and Millsap. Sorry, who you can actually run an offense through. And I'm not saying it's going to be like the 2017 Warriors or anything amazing, but like in order to kind of just have some type of offensive creation that doesn't involve Harden or KD, like Millsap, Aldridge, and Griffin are both like really good passers, and they know how to like work an offense. They've been a part of like all of them have been a part of great offenses, like Millsap with the Hawks teams, Aldridge with the Blazers, and also now he's obviously been with the Spurs. Griffin was obviously on the Lob City teams. Like he's been on teams where all these guys have been on teams where the offense really flows, and a lot of times through those guys. And so I think that's going to be huge. And just as it comes to like a player who I think is the X factor, and I said this last year, and unfortunately proved to be right about it. They are a different team when Joe Harris hits his shots, and when he is cold, their record, if you look, is just not nearly as good. And when he's on, they are a different team. They're because on top of the scoring, they're just absolutely devastating to get hit with a barrage of three after three after three. And look, Mills provides a little bit of a security blanket for that, but Harris obviously has the most to prove to all of us, and I mean, I think everyone in this group hasn't forgotten last May, June.
Yeah, I actually like that a lot, Sam. And kind of going back to the last time we all spoke, we talked about how the guys around the big three are there to unlock the big three and not the other way around. And that's kind of what when Harris is on and shooting like that, that's where the backbreakers come. A team thinks they're making a run, they cut it to 7, they were down 14. And then he hits a corner three that just because by the nature of the motion on the offense, he's open and he hits that three. You know, it's he didn't even cross my mind. But that actually is a really good call.
I'm worried. So the only flaw in this team is another flaw that I always gripe about. It's just that we don't and basketball really is a skill game. If you really break it down, the athleticism and the speed you need it, but you need it but so much. For the postseason, which is what we really care about. If I'm being honest, we're fine. We're not. You're not going to run a lot in the postseason, but I think we're going to lose a lot of games if we don't bring someone in that is going to deal with the fact that we don't have much in terms of athleticism. And you just need spry legs. That being said...
Let me ask you, can Bembry fill that role in some way?
I guess. For him? I guess, but he's so much smaller than I thought that he was. Like, when I saw him stand next to Cam Thomas and they were basically the same height, that surprised me. I thought he was a lot bigger. I thought he was Rondé size. And maybe he is the same size as Rondé, because Rondé when I met him in person, didn't feel much taller than me, and I'm 6'4". So I don't know, man. Maybe we'll see, but I think that's a key thing. I think if they bring something in, they need to bring in someone who can actually bring that energy that Jeff Green, that we lost in Jeff Green. Like, those dunks were, as much as it's just Jeff Green, those dunks put a lot of energy into the team. And like, when things was going wrong, we could always depend on Uncle Jeff to do something like that, or hit a three in the clutch. I haven't seen that necessarily from Millsap this summer. And Millsap, over the past 10 years has been a much better player than Jeff Green. So we can expect better, but we don't know. We won't know until we see it. So if we were to bring in somebody using, let's say, the TPE, right? Do you think we use the TPE to bring in somebody, or what kind of player would they use the TPE on, Sam?
I mean, like, I don't know if I honestly have no idea if they're going to use it, which I know is a cop out of an answer. But like, I just think that Marks is obviously going to survey the entire league, and that's what all of these upper echelon teams do, and see what's out there. And look, like, I think what's hard about projecting this stuff is, like, who knows what team. There could be teams that are supposed to be great that end up totally falling out of contention, and vice versa. So that, I mean, that ends up always changing the trade market of who's a buyer or seller one way or another. So, like, I mean, I definitely don't think like the money thing is an issue. I mean, look, this team also might get the biggest free agent or biggest trade deadline acquisition ever if, like, Kyrie comes back in February or whenever, January or March or whenever it is. But I agree with you. I mean, the athleticism, just to piggyback on your last comment, I think the athleticism is definitely something that I would love to see, in part because I'm in the rare camp where I'm just as scared about the Nets facing a an Atlanta team than I am about them facing Milwaukee, because I think Milwaukee, everyone thinks that Milwaukee kind of figured themselves out last year, which I don't totally buy yet. I think it's kind of I think the Nets still should feel like they have their number, but Atlanta is the team that I think can really push a lot of the Nets buttons and will, as Eve, as you've always said, which I appreciate, I think Atlanta can really make the Nets look old, and that's where I'd like to see some athleticism come in.
Yeah, during the season, we'll lose to teams like that, and we'll have to have the strong mentality to know that that's just something for the regular season. That's a regular season loss, but when the game slows down, we won't need it as much. But I'm telling you, when Jeff Green came back, we all were excited in the playoffs, and we needed him. Let's see. I hope Millsap could be the same, or Claxton can improve enough to kind of fill that energy role, because he was doing that a little bit in the preseason so far. All right.
Well, I think the energy guys are going to have to be Bruce. It's going to have to be Claxton, and Griffin in a way is an energy guy. He does a lot of the hustle stuff. He's a charge guy, get on the floor guy. When he dunks, because he's Blake Griffin, the crowd kind of gets involved. So I think we do have that, and we do have that TPE in our back pocket. Although I wouldn't be surprised if they held on to that for the offseason when they figure they're going to lose some guys to free agency, and that'll be a way to bring in another player.
That's a great point. I agree with that. The saving it is totally on point.
Yeah, no, I think they will. They have it in their back pocket for a reason, and will they use it? Very unlikely. I'm guessing they will, because I still think there's things that's not 100% right with this team. Little things we should be able to overcome, because like Bam said, these other guys are here to unlock, our big three, big two, for right now. Okay. It's nitty gritty time. Samuel, Nets don't win the title if what?
I think they don't win the title if.
Wait. Pre thing. It can't be injuries.
Oh man. I think they do not win the title if we're not using injuries. Then I think that it's got to be something like we've been talking about, where they basically just look old, and someone on their team kind of takes a little bit. One of the stars kind of takes a little bit of a step back, and I think they kind of get ran out of the gym. But I mean, look, I feel I'm in the same camp as Bam. I'm more pessimistic. I always expect the worst, but like, I think this team is unbelievably talented, and I think it objectively got like significantly better with the people it brought in, and we'll see about Kyrie. The only other thing I could say, by the way, is I think they couldn't win if they're legitimately just exhausted mentally from what goes on and off the court. And that's why I'm hoping that the Kyrie situation, it becomes a black or white issue, and there's none of this gray. I hope he's not playing one day and then the next day he says he's playing, but I do not want to get into a place where every 2 weeks, like Shams or Woj is like, oh, there's rumors that he's thinking about the vaccine, or someone saw him on his way to CVS, and TMZ saw him going to CVS, but it was just to get gum, not to get a shot, whatever it is. Like that crap I don't want, because that stuff I truly do think derails a team.
I'm gonna go, and then Bam, you answer the question, and then we're gonna flip it around after. But just flowing off of what you said, it is. Like, the real fear is not even the injuries. The real fear is that one of these two guys, one of the two that's there, gets old. That's my fear. I haven't seen it in the preseason. Everybody looks pretty like themselves. James Harden is still working through some things. I definitely have to say that.